Right, so we're going to start with the cylinder. So we're going to wrap our 1.25 mil around a cylinder. The one that I've used is about 5 centimeters, but you can use anything sizes that you want. And what we're going to do next is bend one of the wires upwards, and then we're going to use the second wire to go round it to anchor it in place. Just be careful, try not to distort it. Because it's quite a thick wire, you're going to need to use your pliers to help you. It's not quite as malleable as your 0.8 or even 1 mil. So you're going to need pliers. Next, we're going then to cut off the wire I've just used to wrap around, because we only need the upright one. So we're going to use a pair of pliers to bend a 90-degree angle in that wire, like so. And next we're going to use a pair of bell making pliers. Just make sure when you bring the wire round to bring it around the front, because this means that when we are looping or wrapping the wire around the stem, the resulting stem, it will fall into place because the previous wrap will be in the opposing direction. So just going to go around. So just ensure that when you're trimming off the wire, like so, it falls into this gap here. So bring in your cutters and just line that up, and then trim it off, and then simply squish it down, and it will slot into place beautifully without any overlap. There you go, that's what it looks like. So next, take a hammer, and we are just going to flatten out. This will give it strength and integrity, but I also quite like the look of it. So just go gently, you don't need to go heavy on it, otherwise it will look distorted. Next, we need to bring in our 0.8 mil wire, and what we need to do here is find the midpoint and start by wrapping it around the frame. So I'm just looping it on one side. And it's a little bit fiddly at this stage because there's nothing to hold it in place. So just keep wrapping until you're happy with the way it feels. And once you have actually attached the wires on the other side of the loop as well, it'll be much stronger. And it'll be much easier to work with as well because it's got something to hold on to. Alright, so it's attached. So I'm just going to keep adjusting it until I'm happy. Wrap it around a couple of times, especially around the top, because you really want that wire to be anchored in place properly, because once you start doing the swirls, you know, there needs to be integrity so that the swirls don't shift and move around while you're doing them. So just try and keep your wires parallel as you work. So try not to crisscross them over, as that will make the whole thing look a little bit untidy. So keep them in the same place. That's what it looks like. So now I'm going to start creating a swirl, and you can see me using my fingers and my thumb. I'm pressing onto these wires before I do the swirl. This will hold it in place and force it to go around. Remember, as I said, just keep the wires parallel and take your time. Don't fight the wire. This is the trick with it. If you fight the wire, it doesn't do as you want it to. So just take your time and slowly shape it. And what I'm doing next is wrap these two wires around the frame. So I'm doing this after each loop, just to make sure that there is structure and integrity to the whole design. If you wouldn't do that, then the wires wouldn't be secure, and it would be quite easy to distort the loops, and it would go out of shape quite quickly. So I'm now doing another one, and you can watch me now wrapping this around the frame. And this technique is actually quite satisfying. I love doing it because it builds up so quickly and is very satisfying to create. Right, so we're going to do this a couple of times, and I'm just going to keep going with this. Now for this section, you will have noticed in the beginning the design is asymmetrical, so I'm going to keep doing this pattern until I've gone a little bit past the halfway section and gone up the other side slightly with my twirls, just because I want all the wires to terminate on the one side. So I'm going to keep going until I have reached the other side. And remember each time to attach the wires. Right, so I've done the one side, and you can see I've gone across the halfway mark. I'm going to do the same with this side. And once we finish with this, all 4 wires will point towards the inside. Right now, the last section at the bottom there is pointing towards the outside. We want everything to be pointing towards the center. So I'm just going to keep going. Right, so the next step, once we've finished with that, is to create the little twirls. So the way I'm doing this is I'm taking my round nose pliers and I'm starting with a loop at the end. So make a tiny loop with the tip of your pliers and kind of roll the wire in on itself. And you can do this to a certain point, and after which you need to take a pair of pliers. I find the bent nose pliers are really handy for this because they've got that little curvature which allows you to just kind of grab the twirl itself and then twirl the wire around itself like so. We're going to do this with all of the wires except the last one. So this is the last wire here, and with this one what we're going to create is a little cradle. So I'm going to loop this wire around itself once. You can use your tools to help you with the shape. Now the size of the loop depends on the size of your gemstone. You want it to be big enough so that the stone doesn't fall out, but also big enough so that it allows light to come through. So next I'm going to be adding my gemstone here, so you can see the stone beautifully fits into that little cradle. What we're going to do next is loop the wire around the gemstone underneath it one more time. So I'm going to put my finger over it, and this will make sure that I can pull the wire underneath the gemstone like so. And then the next and last wrap goes over the gemstone, and this will hold it in place. I'll show you up close. That's what it looks like. And this is securely anchored and actually will not go anywhere. But to make it even more secure, what we're going to do now is take this wire and we're going to be wrapping it around itself one more time. And this will make sure that the stone will definitely not fall out. This is very secure. Obviously, if you squash the wrap or anything like that, the stone will fall out. But in itself, this is very secure and safe. So once we've done that, we are going to anchor it even further by attaching it to the base of one of the other swirls. So I'm taking that wire and I'm going to attach it, and then this will definitely make sure it's going nowhere. So once we've done that, we're going to repeat what we've done, and you'll watch me here how I'm pinching the wire itself. There you go. And then I'm going to twirl this in, and this is what it looks like. So my favorite bit was the butterfly in this design. So what we're going to do now is start with the wing. So you need about a 20 centimeter piece and create an angle of roughly about 3 centimeters from one end, and I'm going to again create a twirl. Now a secret with the twirls is if you pinch the ends quite hard as you twist, this thins out the wire at the end, and allows you to create a beautiful swirl. Normally what I do is there's a straight bit when I create twirls. When you do it this way, it doesn't, and you can then shape the twirl as you like. This is quite a handy little tip that I learned, and it works really well if you want to create that sort of thinning out look towards the end of twirl. So you just squeeze quite hard, and this is what it looks like. That's it. So the next step after this is to shape the body itself. So I'm adjusting the wing here until I'm happy with it, and then I'm just bending the wire to create the shape of the body. So just take your time with that. Make sure that the wire goes towards the back quite a bit. So next we're bending that wire back on itself, and we are doubling it over. So I'm squishing it down, and I'm doubling it over for about 1/2 centimeter or a couple of millimeters at the back, and I'm bringing it back up. And next is a bail making. If you don't have a bail making pair of pliers, you can use a pencil or anything like that. That's thin enough. This is probably about, I don't know, 3 millimeters thick. I'm not too sure of the sizing. There we go. So go around it twice, because we need to bring this wire back to the bottom. So I'm going to pull it down, so pointing it downwards, and what I'm going to do next is bring in my round nose pliers to create like a figure of 8 shape. And this is what it looks like at the moment. So next, bring in your pliers. I'm going towards the body with the wire, and then back away from it. And because I want the body of the bottom of the butterfly to be a bit more narrow than the rest, I'm pinching this down a bit, and that's what it looks like. So now I'm going to go with the next loop back towards the body, going around it once, and then bring it back up. So bring it across a little bit so that there's a crossing point. And then the next loop is going to go away from the body again. You'll notice that each time I'm doing a loop, the next loop is slightly larger than the last one. So make sure that each time you step down or you put the wire down your round nose pliers a little bit, because it's tapered, it'll give you different size loops. So once we've done that, we're going to place the body, and we're going to decide where we are going to start the wing section. There we go. So just about 1 centimeter or so up from that, I'm putting in a bend into the wire, and this is where we're going to create the wing section. That's it. That's what it looks like at the moment. So we need to trim off the wire. You don't need that much length. Roughly about 2 centimeters or so is enough at the end, or 1.5 centimeters. That's it. And again, we're going to create a swirl in the end, just like we did with all the others. And you can watch me here thinning out the wire, as I was telling you just now. And this will create a swirl and feed it in. Now, if you're not happy with the actual bend, you can open up and close it again, because that wire at this sort of gauge is quite forgiving still. It's not quite as brittle. You can see, watch me here. I wasn't quite happy with the actual shape, so I'm rebending it just to bring it into position better. And this is what it looks like. 2 butterflies. So next, obviously, because this is 0.8 wire, I want to actually strengthen it a bit. So I'm using some 0.4 to just weave them together a couple of times to give it some integrity, because otherwise it would just be a little bit too flimsy, even if it's attached within the frame. So once we've done that, time to attach to the frame. Again, I am not using 0.4 for this, or 0.8, because 0.8 would be too thick to attach and 0.4 just too fine. So I've decided to go with 0.6 because I still get some structure from it, but it's not too thick to be too hard, too difficult to work with. So 0.6 is a great choice for that. So just decide where you want the butterfly to sit and basically just attach the wing to the frame itself. On some sections you may find that the butterfly doesn't look quite right if it's attached directly to the wing. So you'll see me in the next section here adding a bead as a spacer like that, because I thought it doesn't look quite right if the butterfly, the tip of the wing, is too close to the frame. So I've attached it like this. So I'm going to go around. Next is the fart juice, as my kids call it, or liquid farts, very appropriately, because that stuff really smells quite terribly. So put it in for about 2 minutes, hot water, but just make sure that your stones are able to be submerged. Things like turquoise, pearls, Ethiopian opals get damaged and ruined if you put them in water. So just be sure to check that if you use any gemstones in it. Dried, and obviously once you've done this, you should put it in bicarbonate of soda to neutralize the liver of sulfur, because it continues acting. So once you've done that, just brush it down. In this case, normally what I do is I use a Dremel, but because it's got so many fine wires, I decided to go with a brush. This was a steel brush, and this is very fine sandpaper. This will get the nice sheen, and this is what you end up with. So I hope you enjoyed this, and thanks for watching.